Hey y'all, so this is going to be a sort of walkthrough of Civilization 1. I've already done a Let's Play a long time ago, but I just want to do like sort of a basic walkthrough of this game. So I'm going to start a new game here if I can. There we go. I don't know why it's taking so long. Then we have this starting thing. I'm just going to skip it. I think everybody's seen this. But anyway, I wanted to do this because I don't think Civilization 1 gets enough love, especially with the later games. Plus, it's such a different game from the later Civilizations. There's sort of, I don't know, some things you have to really get used to if you're going to play this game. And I want to get through the start already. I don't know, sometimes you press like escape or enter. There we go. Alright, so I'm just going to play it on the easiest level, Chieftain, because I want to sort of go through everything. And this will give me leeway to not play as optimal as you really should, I guess. So we'll go Chieftain, 7 civilizations. I'm just going to pick one. So out of these civilizations, it really doesn't matter which one you pick. It's mostly just cosmetic. So like, if you pick the Romans or the Russians, your cities and your units will be white. And then on this list here, there's 14 civilizations. I picked 7 to have. And each one has 2 sets. So like I said, the white ones would be Roman and Russian, and then Babylonian and Zulu will be green. So at one time you'll have one or the other. So yeah. And then a thing you can do here is if you just press left or escape and then hit enter, you can have your own civilization. So let's go with the Canadians here. Your name? Should I go with Trudeau? I don't really want to. I'll go with McDonald. Is it MacDonald? I think so. I don't remember. But John A. MacDonald, the first Prime Minister of Canada. Let's go with that. Okay, so we start out with irrigation, mining, and roads. Those are the ones you'll always start out with. And then we got a bonus civilization advance of bronze working. And that's just random. Any civilization can start with any. Sometimes you don't get any bonus civilization advances. But this time we got bronze working, which is okay. Okay, so this is our starting area here. And we can see some stuff here. So there's the menu bar up top. Then we have the map window to the top left. Our active unit, which is our settler. And then we see around our settler unit we have all the different terrain types. So we've got some hills, some plains, some grasslands, ocean. Anyway, first task is to find a suitable site and found a city. Yeah, so that's what we're going to do. And so first I'm going to just change some settings right here. So under options, I'm going to turn on end of turn. And then I think that's good. Keep the instant advice on. It's fine. Okay, and so yeah, in our game menu here, another thing I want to change is the tax rate. So a good idea at the start is to just go zero tax. And I'll show you the reason for that once we found our first city. And so our settler starts right here. I'm usually not too picky about which area of land I settle on at first. Just in this case, I do want to settle my city on somewhere that's producing a shield. So like right here we have these hills here. I think if I hit T it'll go terrain and then I can... No? But anyway, in the Civilopedia here, this has sort of everything you'll need to know for reference for the game. So think it's in miscellaneous, the terrain types here. So we're starting on a grassland, which is apparently not here. Oh, here we go. Terrain types. Duh. So these are the different terrain types. I'll just go through these. Arctic doesn't really produce anything, except if there's seals. Seals are a special resource. Like if we go out here, on the hills here we have coal. That's a special resource for hills, and that'll improve your production. But Arctic doesn't really produce anything. Desert will have oases, and those are very, very good for food. If you have a city near an oasis, that's really good. Otherwise, deserts don't really do a whole lot. They'll produce a food if you irrigate it, and irrigation and roads and railroads and all that, and mines. Those are things that I'll show off later with you can produce using settlers. There's also another note at the bottom here, so I guess there's an asterisk there. It's -1 if government is despotism and anarchy, and then on the percentage notes there, +1 if government is republic or democracy. So that's just sort of some penalties that or advantages you'll get from terrains if you have a certain form of government. We'll go over that later once we get different types of government. Right now we're in despotism. That's the default government type, and as we go through and learn more technologies, we'll get more access to more government types. And so what I'm starting on here is grasslands. So grasslands by default will produce 2 food, which is pretty good. And then there's the production there. It says 0/1 units. So if you look at the grassland, if there's a little sort of shield symbol in the middle, that tile will produce one unit of production. If there's not, then it won't produce any production. So that's where I started here. We're not going to get any production from this tile, which is not good. So to found my first city, I think I'm going to go into this plains area. So plains usually produce 1 food and 1 shield, 1 production unit. But if you have irrigation and roads, which is what will sort of happen when you build a city, it'll produce 2 food and 1 shield and 1 trade, which is pretty good. So I think I want to produce my first city here. So I wasted a turn there, but that's fine. So right here I'm going to build my city. You can go orders, hit B here. But anyway, I'm just going to hit B on the keyboard there, and then I'm going to found my first city. Capital of Canada is Ottawa, so yes, we have the city of Ottawa here. A few teepees there, 3980 BC. Okay, so this is the city window here. By default, our capital city will have the palace. You can sell your palace, but it's not a very good idea to do so. I'll show you why later. So this is our sort of what we're working on in this city. So by default, we're working the city square itself. Like I said, once you build a city, it'll sort of act as being irrigated and have roads on that particular terrain type. So for plains, that'll increase food by 1 and trade by 1. If I would have built the city on my original square here, it would produce 2 food and 1 trade, which is not ideal. So I want to work this tile here, the grassland tile. By default, it'll produce 2 food and 1 shield, which is good. We'll get 2 production per turn. We'll also get 4 food per turn. And so how food works is that each citizen here, so we're at size 1, we have 1 citizen to support, they'll take up 2 food per turn. And then the extra food here, there's sort of a space right there. The extra food right here will go into the food storage. So at city size 1, it'll have 2 food per row. And so each turn, 2 food will be added here, and then another row, and then another row, and another row will fill up. And then once this whole food storage is filled, on the next turn your city will grow to size 2, and then you'll be able to work another square in here. And so I don't know which square will be next. It'll probably be something like here, and then I'll get 6 food, but I'll be supporting 2 citizens, which will use up 4 food. Also, what we're producing here is 2 shields. So right here, this is for production, and so that'll be used to produce units or buildings in your city. So yeah, if I'm building a militia here, it'll be 5 turns. If I remove 1 shield, it'll double the time, so it'll take 10 turns to complete. So each turn, your excess shields here will build up in this box here, and then once this is full, it'll build the unit or the building that it's building. And if you build units in your city under most government types, these units will require 1 shield to be maintained. So if I was under, say, a different government type like monarchy, if I built a militia, that would take up 1 of my shields. So after this one's built, this will go back to being 10 turns to produce 1, because I'm only having 1 excess production unit going into there. And then the trade. So the reason I changed my tax rate to 0 and science to 100% is because this trade will go towards either tax or science. So if I had my tax rate at 50%, by default, I would only get 1 coin. I only have 1 unit here. So I'll get 1 coin because it, I guess it prioritizes tax over science. So I would be obtaining 1 coin each turn. I could also change this to the ocean, which produces 2 trade. It'll make the city grow more slowly. I'll be having less production, but I'll get 3 science per turn. I don't really want that right now. I kind of want to build up some settlers. First I'll build a militia to defend my city, or maybe just explore, but after that I want to build some settlers. And yeah, so the other terrain types we have here are hills. Hills will produce 1 food. If you irrigate it, it'll produce 2 food, or you can mine it, it'll produce, I think, 1 shield. The coal here produces 2 shields by default. You mine it, it'll produce a 3rd shield. And then desert produces just 1 shield, so it's not exactly ideal. So, oh yeah, and also if I just take away my production, I'll have 1 entertainer here. So nobody's really working, they're just entertaining all day. You can also, yeah, I guess I can't change these guys, but if you have a bigger city and you remove your production, you can also change these guys into tax collectors or scientists, and those tax collectors or scientists will produce extra science or gold for your city. Also, I have by default, I can show the city off here, I think. Yeah, so I have 1 content citizen here. There'll be the guys in the blue overalls and the yellow straw hat, I guess. Other types of citizens would be like entertainers like that. We also have unhappy citizens. Those guys will be like sort of blackish gray and red. And we also have happy citizens, which will have like a white top hat and sort of turquoise clothes. Sort of like the color I am right now, this light blue. And if you have any unhappy citizens, then if you don't have anything to counterbalance that, like happy citizens, your city will go into civil disorder. But I'm sure we'll see that later. So anyway, I've talked enough about that. Let's just get out here, and hopefully, since we're starting to produce science, we will be able to start learning. Here we go. So here's our science advisor, and we can learn different technologies. So I'm going to try to go through get all of the technologies here, and then also try to use all of the government types. Right now, despotism's actually pretty good. So I guess it doesn't really matter. Let's go for pottery. Pottery doesn't really lead to anything further in the technology tree. Um, there we go. I have a militia. So I'm going to change this to... If I change this to settlers, I think that's fine. So let me just explore a little bit with my militia there. Here we have a Goodie Hut. So what Goodie Huts will have, usually if it's within your sort of city borders like this, it'll have 50 coins. You can also find civilization advances for free. You can find new towns. You can find extra units. But sometimes they'll have barbarians inside. That's not good. This one likely won't have barbarians because it's so close to my city. Okay, so I found an extra unit, so mercenaries that will help me. What are they? Oh, okay, I have a legion there. That's sort of better for attacking. And under despotism, one thing I didn't mention is that you get a free unit. It doesn't require any maintenance for every city size you have, so I'm at city size 1, so I only have support for 1 unit for free. So since I found those mercenaries, they're being supported by Ottawa here. This guy will cost 1 shield, so right now this will take 38. Oops, I want to buy. So this settler will take 38 more turns to complete. Once a city grows to 2, then this legion won't need to be supported by the city. So yeah, I can just not worry about that. So I'm going to bring my militia back to my city to fortify, and then I'll explore with my legion here. If I didn't mention, yeah, this is a legion unit. It's a little bit stronger than a militia in terms of attack, but in terms of defense, I think it's about the same. Okay, so I have my militia back in my city, so what I want to do is have it fortify. So that'll just keep it in the city, sort of asleep, I guess. It won't move anymore per turn, it'll just stay there. And it has a defensive bonus when fortifying in cities, so I think there's something in here. Oh, here we go. Not disband, fortify. So yeah, fortified unit has its defense value increased by 50%. There's also bonuses for terrain types like hills, I think. Let's see if I can do this. Yeah, so hills have a defensive bonus of plus 100%. So if you defend on a hill, you're more likely to successfully defend. Okay, so let's just keep going along the coast here. Okay, so we learned our first technological advance. This is pottery. If you want to read this, pause and go ahead. I think everybody knows what pots are. Okay, so this allows the Granary improvement and the Hanging Gardens Wonder. The Hanging Gardens Wonder, if you build that, it will have the effect of putting 1 happy person in each one of your cities. The only problem with the Hanging Gardens is it will be obsolete by a certain technological advance. In this case, it's invention. And then we have the Granary. So a lot of people like to build granaries, but I don't think it's really necessary. I guess it's nice to have, but it's not necessary. I can also build the Colossus. That's through bronze working, and so are Phalanx Units. So yeah, so on this screen here we have 3 units: our settlers, militias, and phalanx. So right here is attack, defense, movement. So like for example, the phalanx will have 1 attack strength, 2 defense strength, and 1 movement per turn. So this is the best unit for defense right now, but I'm playing in chieftain, so it doesn't really matter. And then we have 2 city improvements that aren't wonders of the world. So Barracks. What a barracks does is it will create veteran units when you create a unit in your city. And what a veteran unit does is it has, I guess, I think like a 50% bonus to its attack and defense stats. And yeah, so in Civ 1, 2, one thing to consider when building city improvements is that they cost money. Right now, barracks don't cost any money, they're free to build. And then granaries, I think they cost 1 gold per turn, so you really have to think if it's worth building a granary, especially if you have your tax rate set at 0. If you really want to learn science, then it's probably best to skip granaries. And what granaries do in this game is this food storage window here. It'll create a line right down the middle, and so when you increase your city size, the food storage will be half full already. So you only have to start from here, and this part will get filled in. So, I mean, it helps your cities grow a little bit faster, but I don't know. I don't really think they're really worth building. I think a good strategy in Civ 1 is try to tech up as fast as you can, and just having to maintain a lot of buildings in your cities that really hampers your efforts there. And then another thing you should do really early on is try to expand as much as you can. That's usually my strategy, but I'm not going to be as aggressive in this game.